I just wanted to acknowledge the team that participated in these trials and actually mostly did them. I'm Abby Seaman. I'm with the New York State IPM program. I worked with Chris Smart and Holly Lang in the Department of Plant Pathology and Plant Microbiology. They gave themselves a very long name. And Brian Nault in the Department of Entomology is also collaborating on these trials. So I don't usually do a presentation like this, which is focusing so much on pesticides. Usually, I am an IPM person, so I'm usually focusing on the other practices that we use before we get to the pesticide part. And so I want to emphasize, so these trials were all conducted for organic systems. So everything is OMRI listed. But what I want to emphasize, and we're focusing on pests that organic growers in New York have identified as serious problems on their farms. So that's kind of the boundaries around what we do. But I want to emphasize that in an organic production system, we can't think about depending exclusively on pesticides. We want to use all the cultural practices, rotation, good plant spacing, anything that we can do to minimize the pest population before the season starts. Because what we found is a lot of these pesticides, we're not looking at the products that are going to give you 99 to 100% control, like we're used to in conventional systems. And we're also seeing, you'll probably see quite a bit more variability from season to season in how the products work. So that's the baseline for getting started with that. So some of the fungicide products we've worked with, Actinovate. So we've got both microbial products, we've got copper products. What do we have? So we have some plant extracts like Regalia. So some of these are plant resistance activators. So we would apply them beforehand. So that would be Actinovate, the Regalia. Some of them are protectants, like the coppers and the oxidate. And this Ozonics one is interesting. It's a rhamnolipid biosurfactant that makes the zoospores of downy mildew explode, which is very exciting. I mean, we love stuff like that, right? So there's all kinds of different modes of action that we're looking at. And sometimes, so we haven't done much in terms of combining products, but so we're mostly looking at each product alone. And we're also doing relatively short trials, so we'll be spraying for 3 or 4 weeks until we are able to see differences between the products and the untreated control. So the first pest I'm going to talk about is bacterial speck. It's a bacterial disease of tomato. Here's the results of our 2016 trial, and I apologize, I have a hard time making the names get big enough, but I'll read them for you. So this one, okay, there we go. Actinovate, we tried Actinovate, Champ. This is the untreated control. Double nickel is a microbial product. MB110 is an experimental product right now. Oxidate plus the surfactant that the company is recommending to use with Oxidate. Pomcho by itself. Regalia plus Actinovate mixed, and then Regalia by itself. This is a combination that a lot of growers in Western New York are using now, and so we like to see how they work in replicated trials. The growers in Western New York swear by this combination, but we don't necessarily see that the combination is always or necessarily better than one of them by themselves. So for the bacterial, so in 2016, that was what? That was a dry season. So that's already going to be not very conducive. That's going to be a season that you're not going to expect to see a huge amount of bacterial speck. But the better treatments were Actinovate. The copper treatments, I hate to keep saying it, copper, but they often end up being some of the better treatments in our disease management trials. Double nickel looked pretty good, and Regalia looked pretty good in 2017. So I'm going to whiz through a bunch of stuff. Your heads are going to be spinning by the time I get done with you. But all these trials, we post them. They're posted on the New York State IPM website, so you can go and look at the whole trial for yourself. And I hope that I put the link to that in my proceedings piece for this. So 2017, what do we have? We had a much wetter year. It's really difficult so in these trials, we actually inoculate them so that we get good results. But a grower would not ever want to start out with a level of inoculum that we have at our trials. So like the first thing to do with bacterial diseases is try to reduce the level of inoculum through seed treatment, sanitation in the greenhouse, and on stakes. So I have a hard time not talking about that stuff.
And
so
did you inoculate them prior to?
With the plant activating products, we use those first, and then we inoculate after, like maybe 3 or 4 days after we apply them. So in a very conducive growing season, for the disease, we're looking at plant percent. Got to press harder. Percent severity on the last rating date, and so Champ was the better product. Actinovate and Lifeguard were significantly, and Double Nickel were significantly different from the control, but the others were not. So if I'll just, I should have started out with this. Any treatment that has the same letter as the untreated control was not significantly different from that. So just keep that in mind as we go along. Okay, tomato leaf mold. This is a problem mostly in high tunnel production in the greenhouse, but we're also seeing it in the field sometimes on farms that do have high tunnels. So it can be both. The first trial we did, this is just a closer picture of the symptoms, this velvety sporulation on the underside of the leaf. First year we did a trial was in the field, and so this is percent leaf area infected. And I don't have the significance part, but this is the standard error. So that kind of gives you an indication of the variability in that treatment. So in our field trial, again, the copper product Nordox worked the best. Oxidate actually worked pretty well. We haven't had good luck with oxidate in our trials, although we have growers telling us that it works great, so we keep trying it. In this case, it did work well, but Nordox and Oxidate were the best, and Zonex was not bad either. Here's the untreated control right there. So we did do a couple of high tunnel trials with the same disease. Untreated control, this is the A rating. In this case, we're looking at the area under the disease progress curve. So that's just a way of measuring the disease over the whole length of the maybe 2 or 3 different rating periods. Yes?
What type of a sprayer were you using for these trials?
We use we call it a CO2 backpack sprayer. So it's a backpack sprayer, but the pressure comes from carbon dioxide, and it's a small boom that goes over the top. So it's a small boom sprayer.
There's no air assist there?
Well, the CO2 is what the pressure comes from, what propels it. Yeah.
There's no motor on this?
No.
No, this is a research type of a backpack sprayer.
So it's pressurized. It's a
Pressurized.
flat fan, right?
What?
You got to teach that flat fan.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's larger particles that are, if you had air assist like aerosol.
Oh yeah, it's not that type of sprayer. It's a regular flat fan nozzle like you would use, but the CO2 is what pushes it out of the nozzle.
On your charts, I'm still a little confused.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe I'm not getting it, but the lower the
Oh yes, I'm sorry. Yes, the lower, in this case, the lower is better.
lower, okay.
Yep,
so-
lower
okay,
is better. So this is where we didn't do any treatment at all, and that's higher. And so the better treatments are the smaller bars.
Most of they are to the bottom, that's the best treatment.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Apologize. I'm sorry
Thought
that
but I wasn't sure.
I should have explained that better. Okay, so where are we? 2016, in the high tunnel leaf mold. Here's the untreated control, and so the Champ. So everything was significantly different than the control in this trial, but the Champ and the Zonex did look numerically better than the other treatments. And then in 2017, another, oh, that's interesting, another trial against leaf mold. Again, here's the untreated control, which has an A. Here's the CHAMP. This is the copper product. Oxidate did not, I mean, it was significantly different, but didn't look as good as that first field trial. This is the double nickel product. The Zonix, again, looked pretty good. Here's Regalia. And here's a new one that we haven't tried before, Eulocladium, which is a biocontrol product. Okay, so I don't know much about that product. But I think we'll be trying it again, because it looks pretty good this year. Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Apparently your sprayer is not creating any turbulence to turn the leaf and hit the bottom of the leaf.
It is not.
Okay.
So did everybody hear that question? Apparently, so we're not using a sprayer that creates turbulence and like a fog that comes up and gets the bottom of the leaf.
Now, are you emphasizing the newer leaves and not worrying about those in the understory, or?
We're looking at the whole plant,
Okay.
right? And so we're doing a disease rating for the whole, or a whole section. So we're estimating the percent disease. So that's how we rate. When we rate it, we're estimating percent disease. And then when I show you area under the disease progress curve, that's a way of measuring that percent disease measurement over a number of weeks. Okay, that's just it's just a way of putting that all together into one number. That's a plant pathology thing. Okay, whirlwind tour, on to downy mildew. So cucurbit downy mildew is like the bane of organic farmers' existence if they're growing cucumbers. So we keep trying stuff, but we have not had a lot of success. We don't have a magic product against downy mildew. But here's the symptoms. It's angular yellow areas on the top of the surface of the leaf, and then if you turn it over, there's purple sporulation under there. And then if you don't do anything within 2 or 3 weeks, depending on the weather, crisp, dead. Yes?
This test was done where? What area?
All our trials are done in Geneva at the New York State Agricultural Experiment Station.
White plastic for cucumbers in New York?
This is just a photo of, no,
Okay.
this is not our trial.
Okay.
No, we're not using white plastic.
Oh, okay, it's just the way it looks.
We use black plastic,
Okay.
yeah. This might be this is somebody's farm. Yeah, sorry. I'm leading you guys astray big time, aren't I? All right, so because we've done a number of years of trials against downy mildew, I finally learned how to make what I call the Galen-Dively graph. Because this is how Galen has, so Galen Dively is here. He's done a lot of trials with biopesticides over the years. He's an entomologist. So when we're talking about the insect stuff, I'll ask him to chime in if we have questions. But here, what I've got on this axis is the percent improvement compared with the untreated control. And each dot is a separate trial. If the dot is red, that means this treatment was significantly different from the control, or that in that trial. And if the dot is blue, the treatment was not significantly different from the control in that trial. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay. Yeah. So here's what we've tested against, and these, just to make it a little easier to look at. I know this isn't real easy to look at, but I've left some of the treatments out that we only tried once or really didn't work at all. So this is not everything we've tried. So this is actinovate plus regalia, and then percent improvement. So one non-significant, about 10%, and then a significant trial of about 50% improvement over the control. What we see with these trials is that we can keep the cucumber plants going for at the most 2 to 3 weeks after we start to see disease when we do the treatment. Compared with, so that's about all we can get with these products, unfortunately. So actinovate, 2 significantly different trials, around 40% control, and then one that was not significantly different, around between 15 and 20. Cueva, CHAMP, again, 1 significant and now 1 non-significant. Cueva seems to have done relatively better. There's 2 trials that were both significantly different, around 60% improvement. Double nickel, again, so we see a lot of variability. Nordox seems to be has been a little bit better than the other copper products. I can't tell you why. 2 significantly different trials and almost 90% control in one of them. Oxidate, significantly different and not significantly different, relatively low control. Oxidate, so this is oxidate plus the adjuvant, oxidate by itself. Regalia, again, a lot of variability. Sonata, we did 2 trials with that. One looked really good and one did not. And Zonix. Zonix has been a consistently pretty good product in our trials. And we will keep doing these trials until we find something, I hope.
Again, are you treating these first with these products, then inoculating?
So the ones that are advertised or promoted as resistance activators, we have a website where we can track where downy mildew occurs. So we'll start treating with those as soon as we see downy mildew in the state. And then, so we're not usually inoculating the downy mildew. We get it it just comes in all by itself. So yes, those products, we will make sure we get them on before we. Well, so you're saying it's as a preventative, it's as a plant resistance activator. So you want the plant to experience it and activate its resistance response before the disease comes in.
So like actinivate, double nickel, regalia.
Regalia.
Those are all on prior to the.
Yes, but the other ones don't. Yep.
And it was the same product used several times in a row.
Yes, so we'll be treating 3 or 4 weeks in a row usually until we can start to see real differences between the treatments, or until the controls are completely dead. Okay, powdery mildew, again, we've got a number of years of trials, and I have to say that powdery mildew, I think in organic systems, is one of the easier diseases to control. We have a number of products that work fairly well. Oops, press the right button. And again, so what we've got here is same thing, percent improvement over the untreated control. Red is significant, blue is not significant. So actinivate, double nickel, MPED, which is a fatty acid soap product, has done well in our trials. Sulfur, we tried once. Sulfur works great against powdery mildew. Millstop, we've included it in 3 trials. It's been consistently good in the trials. So that's 3 products that you can rotate or put into your disease management system for powdery mildew. Oxidate with one of the surfactants that they recommend. Oxidate with the other surfactant that the company recommends. Oxidate by itself. Regalia plus actinivate, again, looked pretty good. And this is, powdery mildew is the disease that group of growers in Western New York really focuses on with this combination. Regalia by itself, not different from the combination. And then Sonata, 1 trial that looked good and 1 trial that did not look great. Okay, sorry this is such a whirlwind tour, but we did all this stuff, so we want to show it to you. Okay, I'm going to move on to insecticides. I hope we have a minute at the end so you can let me know if there are pests that you have problems with that we are not working on, that we could maybe include in our trials. So the products that we've looked at for the insecticide products are Azera, which is a pyrethrum plus azadirachtin combination, Ecotech, which is rosemary and peppermint oils, Grandivo, which is fermentation products from this Chromobacterium subsugi. I don't know how you say that. Surround, which is a kale and clay product. Venegrate, which is another fermentation product from a microbe. And then Veratran, which is Sabadilla. Okay, alkaloids. So striped cucumber beetle, like downy mildew, the bane of the existence of organic cucurbit growers, as far as I can tell. And so you can probably tell that we have not been able to find decent products. Why do I keep doing that? But we keep trying. So this was a bioassay that we did in the lab. So we took treated leaf pieces and put the beetles on them for 48 hours, and then we counted how many died. So percent mortality in this case, percent higher bars are good. Percent mortality, so we want to see higher bars. So in this bioassay, Azera looked pretty good here. We didn't have any mortality in the control. Grandivo, Venerate, and the Sabadia product did not work either. Okay, so Azera in the bioassay looked okay. And so this is a field trial from 2016, striped cucumber beetle. This is the untreated control. The orange is the Azera. The green is Entrust. The yellow is, I don't know what this is, I can't remember. And then the green is Surround, which is that kale and clay product, which seems to be what most growers are relying on in the field. So it's really a repellent and anti-feedant. You put it on, some people are putting it on their transplants before they put them out in the field, and then you reapply. So this is mean percent number of adults per 10 plants. So in this case, the lower number is better at 2 different dates. So you can see that we didn't have very much difference from the untreated control in the field. So the Azera did not work that well in the field. So this one is the same trial, but percent defoliation, and you can see that the Surround was the product that was able to reduce the level of defoliation in the trial. Whoops. So squash bug, I don't know why I keep doing that. All right, I give up. Squash bug, you're familiar with squash bug, right? If you grow cucurbits, it's those little gray bugs that cluster on the fruit and can cause some phytotoxicity in the plant. So we have a hard time doing a squash bug trial because they don't show up very religiously, and they also are have a clumpy distribution. So it's really hard to do a trial with those. But so what we tried was Azera. This is the untreated control. So again, this is the average number of nymphs per 5 leaves. So a low bar is the better treatment. Okay, so Azera looked okay. This is the untreated control. Ecotech, which is that essential oil product, Grandivo, Surround, Venerate, and Veritran. And we did 5 weekly applications in this trial. Okay, so the Azera looked like a decent product, but we haven't been able to repeat that trial, so we just have 1 year of results for those. Okay, cabbage worms. I ended up doing a cabbage worm trial by accident when I was doing a Swede midge trial. I realized that I needed to put some BT on the trial to get rid of those cabbage worms so I could continue the trial. So I took advantage of that and rated the trial for the products that I was trying for against Swede midge. So they don't always make a lot, these don't make a lot of sense in terms of if I had designed a cabbage worm trial. But I just wanted to point out, so I think, again, cabbage worms are a pretty easy, relatively easy insect to control, group of insects to control on cabbage. We've got Entrust, we've got the BT products. They both work, they work really well. But the take-home message is that Azera also worked really well against these cabbage worms. The other ones didn't. I wouldn't necessarily have expected them to because they were for Swede midge. And they don't work against Swede midge either. I don't think you guys have Swede midge down here. I think I have 5 more minutes. I gotta keep rolling. Okay, flea beetles, crucifer flea beetles. Another really bad pest on some organic farms that growers are struggling with. So it makes these pitted feeding damage in the leaves, and it's a little black shiny jumping beetle. So this is a crucifer flea beetle trial. The way we did this was that we had seedlings in flats, we treated them, and then we took them out to a farm with a heavy infestation and left them out there. I treated them again after 1 week. And then, so this is the actual number of feeding pits. The plants were small enough that I was able to pretty accurately estimate the number of feeding pits on these plants. Again, we only did this 1 year. This is the untreated control. This is number of pits per seedling. So this is the untreated control. And all the products seem to work very well, which was a surprise to me. I would like to see this repeated We're probably going to do this again next year because I found a farm with a really nice flea beetle population this year. Okay. Sweet corn worms, we did a trial in 2017. And I'm just going to have to go through this pretty quickly. We tried Agree, which is a BT Izawi product. We wondered if Entrust plus Agree might have a synergistic effect, whether you could get more mortality by combining them. Azera, that pyrethrin and azadirachtin product. Entrust, which is kind of our go-to worm control product, at 5 ounces and at 10 ounces, which is off-label. So this is not legal at this rate. Javelin, which is another BT product, Entrust plus Javelin. Gemstar, which is a virus product, and then this is the untreated control. So we didn't have great pressure here, but not surprisingly, the Entrust worked pretty well, but there was not any synergy between the BT products and the Entrust. And this is percent damaged ears, so low is better. Colorado potato beetle. Working with Brian, I'm finally able to do some Colorado potato beetle work, or he is anyway. So the exciting thing about this is percent defoliation, so a lower bar is better. And so Entrust is kind of our go-to product for Colorado potato beetle, but there's definitely a risk of them developing resistance because we're so reliant on the Entrust. So the good news is, so we tried Azera, Entrust, Grandivo, an experimental product, a new product called Beetle Gone, which is a BT. This is another BT that we used to have years ago, Trident. This is the low rate times at 3 applications, the high rate at 2 applications, but it's exciting to have another option for Colorado potato beetle. So definitely, if you have it, there's a lot of cultural practices that you can use to help keep the population down, but at least you have a rotation product to use with Entrust so you don't get resistance. One more, I think, and that's a potato leafhopper. This was on Snap Bean. This is the total number of nymphs per leaf. We tried, so a low number is better. A low small bar is better. We tried Azera and Pyganic. Pyganic was the product that we had typically recommended for potato leafhopper in organic systems. A product called Time Guard, which is made by a company that's close to the experiment station in Geneva, and the untreated control. So clearly the Time Guard is not doing the job, but the Azera did a good job, and so we have another product to put in the rotation with Pyganic. All right, thank you very much, and thanks to our funding sources. I'm a little over. Do you have a question?
Why wouldn't you have used Grandivo for the sweet corn worms? Isn't that rated, that's specifically for corn?
Yeah, so the question was, why didn't we use Grandivo for the sweet corn worms? And I think that we didn't have space for it in our trial this year, but it's a good idea because it is supposed to be a worm control product.